2020, Mr. Speaker. Part of the work that we're here to do is to stand up for working people, Mr. Speaker. Now, we've heard the government itself say that there are serious problems with the temporary foreign worker program, and the minister has committed to a review of that program and has said that it's one of her priorities to fix that program. But when we look to Chapter 12 of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, we have language around temporary foreign workers that essentially will recreate and perpetuate the problems of the temporary foreign worker program. So on the one hand, we hear criticism of the TFW program, but we hear nothing but praise, frankly, Mr. Speaker, from this government for the Trans-Pacific Partnership. So what I'd like to hear from the government today is a commitment that their study of the temporary foreign worker program will include within its scope a study of Chapter 12 of the TPP to make sure that what they say they're fixing with the one hand, they're not taking away or putting back with the other hand, Mr. Speaker. So that's what I'd like to hear from the government tonight. Thank you.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of International Trade.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I thank the honourable member from Elmwood Transcona for his comments on the election of the Conservative government in Manitoba and the NDP's record in that province. I'll proceed to answer the question I thought I was going to get. Mr. Speaker, our country depends on global trade. The reality is that the global trading environment has changed since NAFTA and the WTO, and there are many barriers that our companies face in getting products and people and services and even data across borders on a day-to-day basis. On February 4th, the government signed the TPP in order to ensure that Canada remains at the table, and that the government of Canada is able to continue consulting with Canadians. As Minister Freeland explained in her open letter to Canadians, signing the TPP is only a first step and does not equal ratification by our government. Signing does not affect the objective of the Government of Canada to continue consultations, including holding a full parliamentary debate on the outcomes of the TPP. The government has already met and will continue to meet with a broad range of stakeholders, including businesses, unions, farmers, civil society, academics, and youth. The Minister of International Trade herself has met with unions and labour associations, such as the National Union of Public and General Employees and the Canadian Labour Congress. I myself have met with a number of groups, including Unifor, and I can tell the honourable member that we haven't taken a position, and indeed everything we hear is not positive. We hear both positive and negative, so he erred in his statement in that regard. As previously stated by MP Gould, since the Minister of International Trade was sworn in November, the government has had more than 250 interactions with over 400 stakeholders to discuss the TPP. The mandate of the International Minister of Trade is to consult Canadians on Canada's potential participation in the TPP. That's what we are doing and continue to do so. The
government is determined to create well-paying jobs for Canadians and to protect the integrity of our national labour market. The plan generally adopted by Canada in terms of temporary foreign workers in the free trade agreement is to authorize the entry of certain business people according to reciprocity. This means that the temporary mission is only offered to people who are prepared to do the same thing for Canadians who want to invest. The temporary entry normally covers business people who are visiting, investors, people who are transferred within a business, and the professionals and technicians who are highly qualified. In addition, the integrity of the Canadian labour market is also protected by safeguard measures that affect the requirements with regard to remuneration, study, and requirements. Under the free trade agreement, this regarding temporary entry is determined jointly by Immigration and Citizenship Canada and Global Affairs. This allows us to obtain access to markets while limiting the access to market segments that are deemed vulnerable. The government has committed to adopting a responsible approach in order to examine all the details of the TPP. Thank you.
The honourable member for Elmwood Transcona.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't doubt that the government has heard positive and negative things about the TPP. I'm sure they've heard there's lots of negative things to hear about the TPP. What I said was that I haven't heard them say negative things about the TPP. I have only heard them say positive things. So I don't believe I erred in that regard, unless he has some negative comments about the TPP that he'd like to share with us tonight that he knows members of his party have put on the record that I'm not aware of, Mr. Speaker. I would agree with him that Canada depends on trade, but what it doesn't depend on, last time I checked, is bringing over temporary foreign workers who have no security here, that can be sent back at any time by their employer, are being exploited because they're afraid to raise workplace safety and health concerns, are afraid to complain if they're not being given their due wage, and in the meantime are undermining the position of Canadian workers here. The concern, and it's a concern that the government acknowledges with the temporary foreign worker program, is that this will be repeated under the TPP. So what we want to hear is that their study of the TFW program will include a study of Chapter 12 in the TPP to ensure that this doesn't become a backdoor for another TFW program that's now enshrined in a trade deal.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of International Trade.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The government is committed to consulting widely on these questions of labour mobility in Canada. As regards foreign workers in the TPP, Mr. Speaker, the workers envisaged there tend to be professionals and others who have higher paying jobs, higher education levels, tend to work with companies that they are moving with in the normal course of business. It's not the same clientele that is envisaged by the Temporary Foreign Workers Program as we have known it. As a trading nation, Canada's economic growth is directly linked to international trade. The government strongly supports free trade as a way to open markets to Canadians' goods and services, grow Canadian businesses, create good-paying middle-class jobs. The government has committed to bring forward the TPP to a debate here in the House, and therein we will hear both positive and negative about the TPP. The fact is that we are committed to open consultations. This is a promise we made during the election and one that we are seeing through. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
La motion portant que la Chambre